just give it a few seconds.
Sure.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Zaki.
Hello.
Hi, Danny.
Hey,
Hi,
hello.
Karen.
Hi,
Okay, so
Karen.
now
Hi,
we're
Danny.
live.
Ling.
Hi, Zaki.
Yeah,
Hi, Ling. Hi,
Yeah.
Karen.
yeah. It's so nice to see you guys. Like, it's been a while since we can meet up face to face.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, but
face to face
anyway.
enough.
So it's great. Today we're doing a virtual event for the book launch of our new graphic novel, Elizabeth Choi. Yeah, so today's virtual book launch is a panel discussion with our beloved comic artist, Zaki, Danny,
Hey, hi.
and Danny, the writer, and also a very special guest speaker today, Karen Hoisington. She's an author and international speaker. And in fact, she was one of the kind of early inspirations while we were working on this book because she helped to contribute to the National Museum's Witness to War series of talks last year. In 2018. So that was part of the research for this book. And so we're very happy today to have Karen here with us. So yeah, welcome everybody.
Nice to meet
Welcome,
you.
Karen.
Welcome, ma'am.
Yeah, and I think right now we'll probably still be waiting for more people to join us on Facebook and YouTube. I think for the viewers who have joined us, please feel free to drop questions in the comments. We're monitoring it very closely, and we're definitely very happy to be engaging with you guys through Facebook Live. And we'll try our best to answer all the questions out there. Okay, so for a little bit of so to introduce a little bit more, I'm going to introduce each of the speakers, and then we're going to do a little show and tell of the book, the artwork, and also the limited edition postcard that Zaki has so kindly illustrated, which is a special gift that we're giving to people who order during the launch period, which is for the month of September. Okay, so yeah, later we'll go into that. And then we'll have a short panel discussion between our three speakers today. And then after that, we'll open it up to the chat room questions. So do remember to drop your questions in the comments feed.
Right.
Yeah.
Zaki, first of all, what's going on? Okay.
No, you pause for a minute.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. My internet should be fine. But
Good.
yeah, so Zaki is he's one of Asiapac Books' very long time collaborator. Zaki is, as many of you know, a comic artist, very established in the local scene, and he's illustrated books like Legendary Tales of Singapore. That was his first project with Asiapac Books, one of his first comic books, if I remember correctly. And he's also worked on Lieutenant Adnan and the Last Regiment. Yeah, and other than that, Zaki is also an art educator. He's currently teaching Majors Institute. Yeah, hi Tony. Yeah, so that's Zaki. Later he'll share a bit more about himself. And then moving on to introduce Danny. Okay, Danny is he's worked with us on the previous project, Lieutenant Adnan and the Last Regiment. So we're very, very privileged to work with Danny. Danny is a screenplay writer and also a novelist. And he really added a lot to. It's very nice to see him working with Zaki throughout this process. I think between the two of you, there's a lot of talent. Danny draws as well as writes. So, he's very much a very visual and cinematic type of writer. And it's been great working with you guys on these two projects. Hoping to see much more interesting work coming out over the next few years. Okay, and last but definitely not least, we have the wonderful Karen Hoisington with us. It's really an honor to have you as one of our guest speakers today, because in a way, your research and your work, the talks that you've given on Elizabeth Choi has been part of our research process, part of our inspiration while working on this very long, honestly, like a very long project. We've been doing the research for this for, easily more than 2 or 3 years. Yeah, and I think as someone who also has a more of a personal connection to Elizabeth Choi, today your perspective is definitely very unique.
Thank you.
Had a chance to meet Elizabeth. Oops. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry about that.
It's a bit break.
Yeah, for those of us who never had the chance to. So sorry. Yeah, for
No
those of
worries.
us who didn't have the chance to meet, we'll really be very curious to hear your insights. And yeah, also to hear your views on the book
Sure.
yeah, and as someone who has written books yourself, we're really very honored to have you with us.
Thank you.
For this virtual book launch. Okay, so
Thank
without further ado, we shall start by showing you guys the new book. So this is a little bit of a presentation, I guess. Zaki, do you have the postcard?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So for all of you who are curious and have not ordered the book yet, this is the book, Elizabeth Choi, Her Story. And that's what Zaki is holding is the postcard that he illustrated, which is based on so it's a portrait of her basically. And for
Yeah.
this book, it's a graphic novel. So it features black and white comic illustrations showing basically the main focus is on Elizabeth's experience during the war. As you all know, Elizabeth Choi was one of Singapore's, I guess, most important war heroes,
Figure.
Someone
Yes.
who was a sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, you like
Yeah,
for
she
a
was
while.
someone who was
Yeah.
a community figure.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You're breaking up for a while just now.
This-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you were trying to say about the war figure. Yeah, very iconic
Yeah,
war
she was a
figure.
war
Right?
figure. Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, Elizabeth Choi, she's one of a very important historical figure during the war, because she's someone who helped her community, someone who was committed to the people around her, and someone who resisted and survived, very painful torture, imprisonment, and continued to lead, throughout the rest of her life. So she's really an inspiration to many of us in Singapore. Someone who has, a very huge legacy. For example, she taught in St. Andrews for many, many years. She was someone who helped to set up the School of the Blind. She was one of the first female members of our legislative council. And there's so much more to go into. So what the book shows here today is really I guess it's a slice of her experience. And the main story here is about how she became that person, how she became someone who could represent strength and hope to fellow Singaporeans. And so we really hope that everyone will read this book. To us, it's a very important book. It's a very important project. It's been many years in the making, and we wanted to make sure that we were working with the best team possible, Zaki and Danny, for this project. And also the, researchers who have been doing lots of work on Elizabeth Choi for many years, like Karen and the many, the National Archives, the National Museum. We're very happy that this book can now be part of that shared knowledge about this important figure. Yeah, so thanks everyone for joining us here today again.
Awesome.
And yeah, now I think let's go into the panel discussion. Before that, we'll just like to invite the speakers to introduce yourself. So earlier I said a little bit, but it'll be great if you can introduce yourself now and also share with us a little bit I guess about the work that you have done related to this project or Singapore history in general. So
Sure.
over to you. Let's start with Zaki. Sorry, Zaki.
Okay. I'm sorry. It's
Yeah.
okay. Hi, my name is Zaki. Zaki Ragman. So actually, I've been working for this line for more than 20 over years. Okay. So yes, of course, I'm not that old. Just quite quite experienced. So yes, it's a very unique project because as far as I can say, I love to draw, and when I was a kid, I really love to get certain thing and imagine certain things, right? So it's a gratitude for me that able to especially have the chance to draw the legendary stuff like Elizabeth Choi, right? So it's an amazing experience, especially for there's a very very strong figure for Singapore, right? Even like the first book that we did is Lieutenant Adnan, right? So it's give me a different style of statement of challenge for because in Lieutenant Adnan we more focus on sacrifice, right? Everything that he do for his country, everything he do for his you know his family, right? And everything he did for Singapore about sacrifice for the country that that he are defending for. But for Elizabeth Choi is another great figure that is totally it's another story altogether, right? So for Elizabeth Choi, it's like an experience of when you are living on Earth and you are a legendary itself, right? Is to experience how perseverant the character is, right? And remind me of like my grandmother because my grandmother passed away a long time ago in '97, right? So when he was passed away in '97, he told me a lot of experience, right? Before when she talked about the how horrible is the World War, right? Because she was born in 1900, so since in 1900 to 97 is almost 100 years old, right? So it's told me about the horrible of war, right? About people, about how reflection of life is, right? So when sees the journey of Elizabeth Choi, actually we learn a lot. I learned a lot about it, right? It's all about how perseverant her belief is, right? How spiritual he is in her grasp for religious and grasp for commitment of the belief, right? And the best thing about the story is about when when I was talking to Shah and we were trying to develop a story and have certain references, right, from what Li Ying give it to us, like Karen, even from a creativity point of view from Danny. So thank you that, and we have decided to give the story is all about hope, right? So the journey of Elizabeth Choi is about she really hold to something and she persevere with all the thing that she goes through, right? Having a family, breaking up, then still she hope for the best, right? Losing her husband, then not trying to find the husband, and she never give up. So hope is a very very strong thing we try to portray in the book, right? So this is amazing. And so the thing about these challenges to do the book is all about trying to portray her and never giving up hope, and in every certain thing that her turbulence or certain thing that she went through, she always had hopes, right? Even in the prison, right? She met a lot of people out there. She tried to give hopes. So it's a very very strong personality that that we should learn from the character itself, right? Because of course every legendary people they have their own strengths and weaknesses, right? And from there we can learn, right? So yes, my job I try to portray as good as possible. I hopefully I did the right thing, and you guys can, if you guys not happy with it, you can just scream at me. It's fine. Yeah. So yeah, that's the idea. It's a very creative process. I'm lucky because I went through to a lot of process, especially for Asiapac Book and Danny Jalil. We went through back and forth in the journey to create a good book and to create our the integrity of the stories that really can have a weight on it. So yes, I'm lucky we went through a lot, especially for the time like this, right? Uh, it's a challenge for us, the COVID-19, and time has changed a lot. So hopefully, maybe time will come back to normal. But this is another thing that we actually living in, right? We are living in the world of like inside our heart, we hope for the best for the future, right? So this is the book that reflect that we are in the challenges in a different thing, but still we need hope for it. Okay. Yeah. And yeah, and my experience on Asiapac, actually the first book was a compilation called Manga Dome from Asiapac. Then after that, Madam Leacock was asking me to do the Tale for Singapore. That was an exciting moment for me. It's actually explore some of our Malay groups, right? All the native Malay roots, all that, and the fantasy story and the folklore of it. So it's a very, very good experience for me. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think that's about it. If you guys want any question, you can just ask me any question you want.
Great. Thank you so much, Zaki. Okay, so moving on for Zaki, we'd like to have Danny introduce himself, and then after that, Karen. So Danny, over to you.
All right. Okay. Again, you guys can hear me, right? Okay. Okay. I'm Danny Jalil. I'm a novelist. My first big break was submitting this novel called The Machine Boy for Straits Times Press. And from there, I was introduced to Asiapac, and I have to thank Asiapac again for giving me the opportunity to work for Lieutenant Adnan and now Elizabeth Choi. Yeah. So let's thank everybody from Asiapac. Yeah. Okay. I guess you need me to talk about how this project came about. Yin?
Yeah, sure. I think
Okay.
maybe like I think talking a bit about Lieutenant Adnan also, like that's how we met. That's your first project, Zaki.
Yeah. Okay. Adnan also. Yeah. Yeah. Also to thank Zaki, because Zaki, from Zaki's connection from his previous work with Asiapac about the local legends of Singapore, right? That connection. From him, I have to thank Zaki. He introduced me to you guys. Yeah, and the Anand project, of course, was a very good project. It was about a local hero, a local Malay hero, a strong man. All these heroes have a similar, how do you say, a similar quality, right? They are strong, they persevere, right? Through times of adversity, right? From that project, Madam Leacock from Asiapac approached us she said she wanted to do now a project about strong women, right? And one of the strongest women that we have in recent times, right, in World War II was of course Elizabeth Choi. So her life, I mean, in spite of the things that she went through, she lived a very long life. I believe she lived till like in the 90s, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, she still managed to live a very long, fruitful life in spite of all her hardships, right? I felt like we cannot encompass that whole life, but rather we should focus on like one particular point in her life where she was her strongest, or she persevered the most, and so we decided to choose the part where she was in prison, yeah, and how she survived and beat those odds. Like Zaki said, she, in spite of all the things that she went through, right, being captured, being tortured, being accused of things she didn't do, she was hoping, or should I say holding out against hope to find her husband and all that, right? This is really like epic stuff, right? So you could really imagine like a big war movie or something. It has that quality to it, right? And this is a real thing. Yeah, so real life does inspire, and it's in fact greater than certain things you can make up yourself. um yeah, I speaking about Elizabeth, I think the reading up about her, I think the thing that um or should I say my favorite scene to write was when she was young and she saw those headhunters carrying out those severed heads, right? Um, she was taught not to be prejudiced against them, but rather she was taught by her family to embrace different people, different culture, no matter how strange they might seem, it is still their own culture. And I think that upbringing was brought over during her time in prison. She really, our own personal, pledge, right, regardless of race, language, or religion. She really, I think, embodied that. She cleaned toilets. She didn't care whether you were English, Malay, Chinese, whatever, because everybody was there in prison. Everybody was in the same hardship. Even the Japanese soldiers, she wasn't like say racist against them. She just felt like it's a different time. this was war, and war is different from peacetime, you know. Yeah, so she embodied everything, right? She embodied hope, loss, strength, never giving up. She was a strong woman. So yeah, that was, yeah, that's the best part about it. Those are the best parts about Elizabeth. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Danny. Yeah, I think you cover a lot of ground there. There's a lot of ideas and a lot of food for thought in what you said. And then now, actually, today's most special guest, I guess, because in a way, you're new to our readers. So Karen, you're a writer. You're also you've been in the like a creative director in your career, and still, you have this connection with Singapore history, this connection with the legacy of Elizabeth Choi. So perhaps you can share with our readers a little bit, perhaps why you chose to do these things, why you chose to base some work and dedicate so much, I guess, like time and also thought to the stories in your talks and also in the book that you wrote.
Yeah. Thanks, Ling Ying. That was a great question. I'll keep it brief. Just to introduce myself to the audience. First of all, thank you, Asiapac Books, for inviting me to this virtual book launch. It's so exciting to be live streaming. And it's a pleasure to meet Zaki and Danny as well. Not often you meet the creators of projects, so I'm very honored to be here. And also, happy Teachers' Day for those who are teachers listening in. And today is very significant because the 5th of September was when all the POWs were released from Changi prison. And I've been in there. I taught the inmates last year, and to just be there in a historical site was quite a privilege. So today is very good for a good day for Singapore, and especially for the POWs. So anyone who's from Australia or Britain hearing this, just rejoice that today was a day of freedom. Yes. So for those who want to just know a little bit about me and where I'm coming from and what is my place at this table, yes, indeed, Lin Ying is correct to say that I started my career as an art director at Ogilvy and Mather, was an award-winning designer for my own company on branding, one of the earliest Singapore pioneer branding, doing all the blue chip companies before Singapore was aligning itself to the global market. So that was quite a fun ride. I am also, in the last 10 years, been a lecturer at Niang and Nanyang Poly. So a shout out for anyone that's from there. And also given a little stint at Kyoto International University, Japan, which was such a bonus for me because at that time I was already doing research on the fall of Singapore and, of course, Elizabeth Choi. So getting from, from the Japanese perspective, visiting their war shrines was such a once-in-a-lifetime experience for me. So, yes, indeed, it was I think from 2017 that the Singapore government was very interested in bringing up the memories of World War II. First, to honor the ones that sacrificed their lives. And secondly, I think to let all Singaporeans or all people in Singapore know that, we cannot take our safety for granted. Anytime all this wonderful freedom, our wonderful country that's been developed should not be taken for granted, especially for the generation to come. So I was invited by the museums and the library and the archives to give talks when they come up at significant dates. And so I was very happy to serve that cause, and especially when Elizabeth Choi is also a distant relative of mine, and my mother and her sisters knew her quite well during the war. So I just felt it is my national service in that sense. It is my joy and my pride if I have the stories to also share them for the next generation to come. So even this virtual book launch is very significant for me, and I'm sure for all, because the fall of Singapore was very, very important in our Singapore history. So I'm very happy to be here, and I look forward to some of your interesting questions, Ling Ying, you're going to ask me in a moment. So thanks again for having me.
Great. Thank you so much, Karen. And thanks everyone for being with us today. Yeah, like I think it's, Elizabeth Choi is not just a name in the textbook or in the history books. She's really, I wish that we could meet her today. She passed away, in her 90s. She lived a very long life. And I think, she touched so many people's lives during that time. And yeah, so in a way, I wish she could still be with us today. But other than that, I think her legacy lives on through the work of historians. And, like say for a comic book, we really hope that young people will embrace this story, that they'll be inspired by this story, and also that, it will, I guess, be something for young people to treasure about their own country and their own history. And so, yeah, I think let's move on to the panel discussion today. Just a couple of questions that I would really love to hear what you guys have to say about. So the first question is, who is Elizabeth Choi to you? And I think for this question, maybe all of you can answer, whether it's, let's start in a different order now since Zaki went first earlier. So for this one, Danny. Okay, Danny, you'll go first. Yeah, thanks, Danny.
Okay, who's Elizabeth? No, you're welcome. So you're saying, who's Elizabeth to me? I think she is, well, there's a lot of things to say, right? I don't want to say the cliche things. I mean, she's of course an inspiration. She's an inspiration, she's an icon. She's an example of what the best of us can be at the worst of times. Yeah, I think that's what she is to me.
Great.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And then now moving on, let's have Zaki answer. And then Karen.
Okay, I think for me it's the same thing when we prepare for the writing and when we read about the story, right? The history of Elizabeth Choi, right? It's like Shah say, at the times of very very chaotic times, right? For Singaporean to have that kind of adversaries, and I guess he's a beacon of hope, right? So we can take that as a beacon of hope even now that we are doing it, the things so we can persevere and try to push forward, and that hope that she went through a lot, right? And whatever we are went through now, right? For us, it's only just to hold on, wear a mask and anything. For her, she went through a lot of things, right? So for me, she's like a beacon of hope for all of us. So we can take a look at it and put a point of perspective.
Yeah,
where she is now.
definitely, like she's still a very relevant person today. When you read the book today, it really kind of reminds you of like Singaporeans have this ability to be strong, to help their community, and it's very much parallel to what we are going through, a hardship, a period of hardship for everybody, where we have to be united and help each other out. Yeah, and so over to you, Karen. I think your answer will be the most will be maybe the longest. Yeah, but
no pressure.
We'd just like to hear. Who is Elizabeth Choi to you?
Yeah, thank you, Danny and Zaki. Lovely answers. It's really touching. So thank you for, saying those lovely words, and she really lives up to them. Who is Elizabeth Choi to me? For me, as a woman, I think Elizabeth Choi embodies the best for me, the best of her gender, a portrait of wisdom and bravery and selflessness under the extreme adverse circumstances of physical and mental abuse. Yeah. While few can speak about her war experiences, and they normally will remain hidden, don't forget, everyone who went through the war normally do not want to speak about it, including soldiers and veterans, because it is such a traumatic experience, or something we respect them for. So Elizabeth's story only came out 40 years after the war in 1983. So she was, encouraged to share, and that's where the audio recordings and all that came about. Now, while many just stayed hidden and quiet, Elizabeth, just after the war, rose up to help the British administration and the then governor to prepare Singapore for self-rule. So she's unique that way because she could have just chosen not to, be engaged anymore, just to stay at home and take care of her husband. So, so she used her negative experiences in a very, very positive way. That's already an inclination of an insight of what kind of woman she was. Even from I think Danny, or Zaki, you were mentioning about her early life. So all that will come into play. Yeah. So on a personal note, yes, I am a distant relative of Elizabeth Choi's husband, Choi Kun Heng. And I would like to just share that my mother was the most impacted by Elizabeth Choi, who was a teacher herself. So through Elizabeth's advice, Mom became a teacher too, and eventually became the vice principal of Raffles Girls' School and principals of many, many schools in Singapore. So through my mother, then I became a lecturer at Nanyang and Nanyang Polys, including Kyoto University in Japan. So so Elizabeth, I think I can just sum it up, left a teaching legacy in my family that is still alive today.
That's really great to hear. As earlier we were saying, like it was Teachers' Day yesterday, and
That's right.
yeah, I think she's such an inspiration to the power of teaching,
Yes.
as something that touches people's lives,
Exactly.
that shapes character. Yeah, so I'm really glad that you mentioned that part of her life. I think it's something very integral to her character and the legacy that she left behind. Yeah, so moving on to the next question, I think what we'd like to hear from each of you guys is which qualities about Elizabeth Choi stand out the most to you today? So for this one, okay, let's shuffle the order around a little bit. Let's start with Zaki, and then Karen, and then Danny. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess the quality of Elizabeth Choi, right? Uh, I think the best qualities about her is helping others, right? That is the best part, because in the time where everybody lost everything in life, right? She managed to go to create a camp for those people that really need help and helping others, and even like those people that are homeless or that, right? Try their best to help it out. So you just imagine like the place right now, like everybody got no money, right? Right. All you have is yourself, and she pulls and even whatever she got and still helping people. That is the best quality in life. There's no other chances that we live in a world where everything is in front of you, right? It's so beneficial, and we can see like those days, those times. There's no telephone, there's no nothing. Who you gonna call? Like only your closest neighbor, or your whole. I think I can believe the whole kampong will know each other, right? So I think that's the only thing that you can really see how the strong commitment the person are. Right? Not like us, like so. I mean, I'm not saying everybody's that way, but now right now the society has like if you never let yourself know, people tend to forget, right? Because even though there's a phone or a Facebook nowadays, right, in social media, I think we suddenly we say, hey, hi, how are you? This kind of thing, right? So yeah, I think that's a quality that taking care of your neighbors, taking care of your family is that you have to take care of your country itself. Right? So Elizabeth Choi is a strong woman that really taking care of all the neighbors and the loved one that she really care about. Yeah, I would take that.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Zaki. I think what you mentioned about that kind of helpfulness is something that it's so it's so important and so relevant today. And so talking about qualities about Elizabeth Choi. So over to you, Karen. Which qualities about Elizabeth Choi stood out the most to you?
All right. Every time I think of Elizabeth Choi, I think of Eleanor Roosevelt's famous quote, which says, "A woman is like a tea bag. You can't tell how strong she is until you put her in hot water." So I think this describes the qualities of Elizabeth Choi. She was a simple teacher, very humble, very quiet, not seeking for any attention or glory. So, her kindness, as what Zaki was saying, generosity and compassion for others at wartime left an indelible mark on their lives. Even today, when I talk to the war veterans who remember her, they gave her such honor, of her work, never forgotten. Yeah, she also remained calm, actually, from her reports and from people who write about her, respectful and submissive to her Kempetai torturers in the YMCA, who were actually reported to be astounded by her dignity and her inner core of strength. I think you mentioned Monai Tadamori in your book, and that was the guy, that was the officer actually who was in charge of her, and he was quoted to saying that she was quite an amazing woman. Yeah, so she matched their wits actually. So the Kempetai were quite impressed with her. In addition to all these wonderful qualities of her, the one thing that truly stands out for me personally, even today, is as being very praiseworthy and exceptional, was forgiving her 6 Kempetai torturers at the war crimes trials in Singapore. Elizabeth Choi refused to identify them, when she was asked to, in line with the war, crime tribunal, and instead said, these were her words, the men were simply under orders. It was war that made them do terrible things. So to me, to insist on justice for the wrongs committed on her when it was provided was true forgiveness and unconditional love. I don't know how many of us can actually look at our torturers in the face and refuse to call them out and instead seek to understand them. So that is very, very touching for me.
Yeah, thank you, Karen, for bringing up that. That's so moving. Actually, I'm quite I think that's one thing about Elizabeth Choi that is really remarkable.
Yes.
She she talks about this in her oral history interviews. She's so forgiving, and so kind of in a way, like she has so much integrity in the things that she does, in her beliefs, in her faith in humanity, that she's able to really have compassion for all people, as Danny earlier said, regardless of their culture, whether they're different from her, and even people that tortured her. I think that's something that's really, it's one thing that's really incredible. So yeah, Danny, it's your turn now. I'd like to hear from you which qualities. I realize this is a difficult question to go last for. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Danny, over to you.
Thanks a lot. Okay. Zaki and Karen said so many nice things that it's a challenge for me to end this topic. Okay. Okay. But
Sorry.
okay. It's all right. But I think I don't know whether I'm saying what they're saying in different ways, but I think she's selfless, right? I think that's quite obvious and evident in what she did during the war. She had, I think, virtually no prejudice, right? Like what Karen said, she refused to name her torturers during the war trials, because, like she said, a war made them do terrible things, right? I think, just as a side note, I think people, we never know how we behave in times of crisis. I think, for example, during the COVID period, I would love to commend the Singapore government for behaving and protecting its people. They did very well. They gave us masks, and when you complain about the first batch of masks, they gave us better ones. They try to control everything in phases and everything. So the government's behavior in this particular crisis is, I think, exemplary. Better than other governments, as you say, right? Yeah, that's it's same thing as Elizabeth, right? Like she behaved very well. I mean, not very well, but like in given her circumstances, locked in a room, a very small room with so many people, right? It's stinky, smelly, full of shit, literally, right? She still wanted to make it clean and presentable, Um, I think that's part of the quality of being, of course, a woman. Because to be honest, if a man was in there, I think he'll just take the shit. He wouldn't really take as much effort to make it clean, and that's a point Karen mentioned. Like, she brought out the best qualities of being a woman. I've seen many strong women in my life, right? And I think I can attest to that, right? My girlfriend, my mom, right? And sometimes we do not appreciate women for how strong they are, right? They're stronger than we think, and they're beyond strong, Yeah. And also another thing I want to a point I want to make about Elizabeth is that she also embodies the DNA of what Singapore is, right? Singapore is, in fact, a nation of like people from other lands who came here, made a name and place for themselves, called this adopted island their home, and put all the effort and love into this home. Elizabeth was not from Singapore originally, right? But she came here, she made the best of it, and she fought for it. It's same as Lieutenant Adnan. Even he came from Malaysia, came here, and fought and died for this island, right? This small island. And it's like, I hope that in the future we have people with the same kind of quality, because they always say, the kids, they don't,
Yeah.
yeah. But I hope that in the future, like, people will like at least have that kind of faith and compassion and love for Singapore. I don't know whether this generation is like that or the next generation, but I hope every generation basically does the same thing. And apart of from people to complain about how bad life is, but sometimes you have to like also appreciate how good this country is, because you never know how good you have it until you go overseas and see, oh, those conditions are worse than Singapore. And then when you come to Singapore, you feel, okay, Singapore is really good. And when I travel, right, I never feel more Singaporean than when I'm overseas. Then I appreciate my own country when I come back. So yeah. And Elizabeth, like I said, embodies all that, because she was from other places. I mean, she was from another place, and when she came here, she loved this country and stayed in this country and had her children here. And and in her legacy, I think, lives on now, and hopefully in the future we have other people making other pieces of literature regarding Elizabeth. I think her legacy will live on in literature and in our hearts. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Danny, for
Thank
sharing
you.
that. I think what you say is
All
so true. There's so much to say and recall about Elizabeth Choi. Like, even for this book, we had to edit down, a lot of the things. We had to really like, there were so many interesting interactions that she had throughout her entire life. Yeah, what you said about her being like an exemplary Singaporean story is really true. I think like, yeah, it's not enough to just look at her as one character or like one person. It's also kind of the spirit that she represented, which I think, yeah, all Singaporeans have. It's inside all of us, and we see it the most during times of hardship, when people around us are in need. So that's really relevant to like where we are today. And then, okay, just to let everyone know, the session is 1 hour long. So this is actually kind of the last panel question. And then after that, we can go into a more casual Q&A. So I think there are some comments, but we can always have more. So if you have any questions for Zaki, Danny, or Karen, wonderful opportunity to have all of us together here today. Please drop some questions in the comments. We'll get to it once we can. And yeah, so the last panel question for today is for each of you. Karen, Zaki, and Danny, what do you think readers today will gain from reading about Elizabeth's story? So starting with Karen, and then we'll go to Danny and Zaki. Yeah, so Danny, you don't need to go last anymore. Yeah.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to congratulate the team for an excellent graphic novel. My copy arrived in the post and it was so exciting to open it and read every little frame. So I read it from cover to cover. And the illustrations are very well done. So that's Zaki, right? Very well done. Yeah. I also gained many new facts actually through the book. So you have done more research. So that's very useful for me too. And the principles. I like the way that you put the principles of Elizabeth. What she stood for in the book, because that makes the book, the graphic novel, inspirational. Yeah, because those are evergreens. These principles. So well done on that. So what can readers like myself gain from the graphic novel? Yeah, first of all, definitely Elizabeth Choi was a woman of faith that was demonstrated by acts of kindness. So that came through very well in the book. And making herself useful. I like the part where you went into a little detail on her cleaning the toilet with a piece of stone. And again, or sharing her food. I think, records have shown that sometimes when she saw her fellow prisoners didn't have enough food or felt sick, she would actually, just give her portion to them. So all that was in the graphic novel. So thank you for bringing that out, because that also makes her extraordinary. I believe what kept Elizabeth Choi going in the difficult times was not only her belief in God, thank you for acknowledging that, but also in herself, yeah, because also what you have mentioned, how she was brought up, what her parents have taught her, and even I think was it Danny who said that being among the headhunters of the Kazazan tribes, father taught her good values, not to see people different, but we're all the same. Yeah, so accepting that. But I think she also motivated herself by serving others, selflessly, and that kept her mentally and physically motivated. I think that's a very important point, and I think that was brought up from some examples today about COVID, people being kind to their neighbors and all that. So no matter what bad she went through, it did not affect her as who she truly was. And I think the graphic novel has brought that out. So in other words, I would say that what made her through the bad experiences did not define her. So I think readers will be very encouraged to find that even though it's a historical story, it's still very, very relevant in the principles for us today. And Elizabeth Choi is a great example to show us the way.
Great. Thank you so much, Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So next up to follow is Danny. Yeah.
Hi. Okay. What do I think readers today can gain from reading about Elizabeth? I want to just turn back the clock a little bit because a few years back, me and Zaki, we had a few school talks at various primary schools.
Yeah.
Back then we were
primary school.
Yeah,
and among others.
That's right. Yeah, Naval Base.
Yeah,
and another one. And that one for that talk, or for those talks, I mean, we were talking about Lieutenant Adnan and how he was an inspiration. Well, first of all, I hope because I think our main, let's be honest, our main audience here would be for slightly younger people to read the book and be inspired. I think that's why we do this, right? For the children. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, for future generations.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's a reason why legends live on, right? Because it's always the job of the present generation to pass forward the story of our present heroes, That's why people, even still, people from legends still live on, right? So for the children, I hope that they can read stories like Elizabeth and Adnan, and know that for Singapore itself, we do have our own heroes, yeah, and these heroes
Mm.
live through a very difficult time of adversity, pain, death, suffering, and they came out better for it, you know. Um, and especially, I think I would hope that a lot of young girls read it, you know. Um, now, socially, right, like there's so many things, right, about women. Women are kind of free, but also people tend to comment about them, and in very negative ways, right? And I don't like that, you see, because
Yeah,
I
there's
always think,
the patriarchy. Yeah.
correct, the patriarchy, and also like for young girls, right? I mean, I just want them to read something like Elizabeth or any inspiring female figure, and I want them to know that, like, they are strong, and they are stronger than they believe they are. You know, that's what Elizabeth was, right? I mean, she's seen the worst of mankind, but yet, right, out of the worst of mankind, she also saw the best of mankind. Not naming her torturers, just saying, oh, this is a time of war, people behave differently, So she still like had to fight through everything, and she saw the best of people, the worst of people. So in that sense, she's a hero to everybody, right? She's a hero to everybody. She had a strong belief system, and she, like I said, she fought through the worst of things, and she still um she still survive. Like, I think like a real hero is like somebody who knows that things are bad, but they still suffer through it, right? I can't remember the exact quote now,
Mm.
but something about um it's not about the absence of fear, but the courage to face it, something like that. I can't remember the exact
Yeah,
quote right now.
yeah.
Yeah. So I also felt that this is something that people really need to, like, you know people, like I said, especially youngers, really need to understand, and hopefully they get inspired and do better. And hopefully this will, like, I think also partly it's our job as creators, right? Especially we're doing like a semi-fictional story based on an actual person in Singapore, like a Singapore hero. It's our job to inspire the kids, and hopefully that kid, because like we can take these heroes like Elizabeth and Adnan as like local myths. There's a
Mm.
reason why legends and myths live on, like Thor, Zeus, whatever, right? They teach us stories, right, and morals. And like as a kid, my favorite hero was Batman, right?
Mm.
Batman taught me not to kill, to be the best man you can be, and all that, right? All that good stuff, right? So, uh, I'm not saying I'm the best person, right? But at least if I need to look up to something, I think of Batman, right? And in that sense, like, I hope when a young kid wants to look up to a local hero, it can look up to Elizabeth and Adnan and all the other heroes that we have. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Danny.
Welcome.
And then, okay, I'm going to let Zaki have some time to think of. Yeah, so I think,
It's fine.
yeah, like what you mentioned is so true. Like, the reason why we did this project, is also to talk about a different kind of war hero. Someone that's a bit different. Like, say, Lieutenant Adnan, he was a soldier. Limbo Singh, he's also someone that was part of the Force 136. People who fight. And then Elizabeth Choi, she's not, she didn't fight anybody. She didn't, she's not violent. She didn't have any weapons. And yet, it was her kind of her strong faith in humanity that was her way of resisting. So, like, we're very happy that this book came out. It took a lot of effort. I think there was a lot of research before, I think before Lieutenant Adnan started, we had already started to discuss this possibility of doing an Elizabeth Choi book. So it's really great. Yeah, like in terms of what readers can we really, really want everyone to read this book. I think it's something that, like Lieutenant Adnan, every time we bring it to a school, every time we bring it to a book fair, I think people see this name and they are immediately like, wow, you know, it's a local hero, it's a historical figure that lived in Singapore here, and he's in a comic book. Like, isn't that great? And so, you know, to everyone out there, yeah, like, you know, our stories are that important, are that precious for us to, you know, for people like Danny and Zaki to be inspired to create a comic book out of it. And we, you know, Elizabeth is just one of the many great stories out there. And there'll be more for the future generations to come as well. So yeah, Zaki, you have, I guess, a couple of minutes. Yeah. So, you know, what
Sure.
qualities about Elizabeth Choi do you think? Sorry, whoops. Sorry. What do you think readers will take away from reading this graphic novel?
Okay, so yeah, so as for me, as a, you know, as a comic lover myself, right? I wanted not just for children to read the book. I want it to be every
Yeah.
large audience, right? Like people from my age or older or even younger, right? To take away from it. So I wanted people to understand the character and enjoy the story as much as possible and learn from it, right? So it's the perseverance of Elizabeth Choi, right, when she went through using that timeline, that kind of world they've been through, because it's not about fighting the fight with weapon or that. It's about perseverance because everybody got their own problem and no, we don't know about it. Some people have suicide attempts because they are stuck to the thing that they cannot explain to their parents or to their friends, right? So it's very important that there's always a way out, not doing anything stupid, right? You can have hope on it. And okay, if you got that kind of suicide attempts, try to reach out to others, right? This kind of thing. And that's a story about Elizabeth Joy, to persevere and having hope. So no matter how difficult place you are right now, how dark the places is, right? There's always hope if you keep on holding it, right? So do not give up. So I wish that the reader will have a more, in whatever situation they are right now, in the dark places, either from situation of family, financial, right? Nowadays, right? And even like certain sickness, right? Out there, we never know, because we never know what people have in a problem, right? We never know how people look so happy, but they got a lot of problem. It happened before so many times, right? So for this book, is actually, I hope my invisible literature is about holding and keep yourself strong and have hope at the end of the day. There's always a light. So that's my takeaway from it. Hopefully the reader will have the same thing. They have the same perseverance, and you know, if any problem they have, it's just to have a hope and push it to a certain time where nothing can never stay the same, right? You're always going to move on, and better things will come, right? Yeah. So that's my take on it. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much. I think all of you, like, you know, brought up different points, and you know, we really, I think there's a lot of things for us to chew on, you know, like as people, as say, like, you know, Karen and Zaki, you guys are lecturers, teachers, and also for us, you know, the way we regard our family, our neighbors. There's really, a lot to think about today. We're kind of coming up to the end of the session. So the last thing that I guess I wanted to say also on behalf of Asiapac Books is that we have a special thank you gift for the people who joined us for today's launch. So this is a little bit of I guess like an advertising message. Like, you know, we're doing a small promotion for the launch duration of this book. So for those of you who have joined us here today, you can get a $10 voucher to spend on singlet titles. So you can head over to our website, asiapacbooks.com. This includes the new title, Elizabeth Choi, but of course, many of you might have already ordered it. So you can also check out some of our other Singapore titles like Limbo Singh, Lieutenant Adnan, and more. And yeah, going back to the audience and the questions, I think there was one interesting point brought up by Leslie. He was asking, so this is something I'm not sure whether you guys know, like, you know, is there a statue or memorial for Elizabeth Choi in Singapore? And if not, you know, what do you guys imagine would be a good memorial for a character like Elizabeth Choi? I think it'll be kind of fun if we can maybe, like, you know, pitch an idea to the Singapore Tourism Board or the Heritage Board like? You guys have any ideas? Then
I think this proposal has been tabled many times. I suppose the answer really has to come from Elizabeth Choi's own family. I also do wonder why, especially maybe near the YMCA, there isn't a statue of Elizabeth. So I think it's a great proposal because she's been honored for many years. She's in the history books together with Lim Bo Seng, who has a memorial at MacRitchie Reservoir. So that's a great idea. So hopefully, we will see one of Elizabeth Choi, perhaps around the YMCA area, because that is a historic
and that's
site.
also where the National Museum is. So maybe this is an idea for the National Museum to consider also.
Yeah, I think the YMCA was a good spot. Yeah, that was a good idea actually. There so many things happened there, so that might be the most prime spot to have a memorial, I presume. Yeah, good idea, Karen.
Yeah, so I think because we are running out of time, so I think basically for viewers that have joined us today, if you want to keep in touch with us, you can always join us for our upcoming events. Next week we have another book launch event, and it's for the new title Sacred Guardians. This is a totally different comic book. It's a fantasy superhero epic set in ancient Southeast Asia. So we hope that you guys will join us for that, happening at the same time next weekend. The details are all on our social media, Facebook, and as well as Instagram and YouTube. And with that, I'd just like to say a big thank you to our speakers here today. Zaki, Danny, thank you for your great work on this book. And Karen, thank you for inspiring us today. We're so honored to have you with us, and also for your talk and your work all these years. It's really an amazing opportunity to meet you here today. And wish for our viewers as well. We are so glad that you joined us here today. It's different from doing a physical event where we can shake hands and say hello, but we hope that everyone can stay safe. This is a temporary measure. Let us know if you like our book events, what we can improve on. And we'd like to wish everybody a great day, a great weekend, and school holidays as well for the kids. And any last words, Zaki, Danny, Karen, anything you'd like to say before we go?
Well, probably for the people who love to read, keep on reading. People who doesn't read, please start reading.
I just hope everybody. I'm sorry, Ling, you want to say something?
Yeah, please.
Oh, okay, sorry. No, I just hope that, like Zaki said about reading, I just hope that people who do pick up the Elizabeth Choi book get inspired by her and try to get better because of it, Yeah.
Thank you again to all of you for having me. It's an honor to be here to share Elizabeth's story and to continue to burn the candle for her. So it's been a very special Saturday afternoon for me. So very memorable. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much again. And thanks everyone for being with us today. Let's all keep in touch online. Wishing everyone a great day and talk to you again soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, bye. I'll end the
Thank you so much.
podcast now. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Elizabeth says bye. Bye.